My name is Neith Ovari Thesk, and for 19 years I have logged fuel manifests for the docking ring at Skern Anchorage. It is not a post that invites stories. A waystation sells reaction mass and dock time to freighters passing between the Corvette Assembly's outer holdings and the long, slow trade lanes nobody important uses anymore. I mention this because what happened to me happened to a quartermaster, not a captain, and I want that understood before I say anything else. The morning it started, I was reconciling a fuel cell discrepancy on berth 11. A bulk hauler called the Long Measure had taken on 600 units of compressed hydrogen, and the manifest said 590. Not a large error, the kind that eats an afternoon and nothing more. I ran the telemetry burst that closes out every fuel transaction. A small, dull packet, mostly numbers, addressed to the Assembly's Customs Clearing House, the way it has been addressed for as long as I have worked this berth. The packet did not go to the clearing house. I did not learn that for 6 hours. What I learned instead, 6 hours later, was that a small unarmed vessel had requested docking clearance on berth 11, the same berth, and that it was flying a transponder code none of our registries recognized, and that it was already inside our approach corridor when the request came through. Approach control woke me because I was the duty officer of record for that berth, and because nobody else wanted to be the one to say the word humans out loud before they were certain. I went up to the observation gallery above the customs bay, which is where I do most of my worrying, because the gallery has a long window and the window lets in actual daylight off Skern's primary, and I find that thinking is easier with light on my hands instead of a screen. I watched the ship come in. It was small, smaller than the Long Measure. It carried no visible ordnance, which on a station like ours is not unusual, and it carried a single hull marking I did not know. A stylized open hand over a circle, painted, not projected, the way old treaty vessels mark themselves when they want you to know they are not hiding anything. Approach control wanted to scramble the 2 patrol skiffs we keep for piracy scares. I told them not to. Nothing about the ship's approach vector read as a threat. It came in at the same speed and angle as any scheduled courier, requested the same berth assignments, used the same hailing courtesies our own pilots use. A threat does not usually ask permission twice and wait for the second answer. It docked without incident. A single human stepped through the umbilical alone, unarmed, carrying a sealed document case of the old physical kind, the kind you carry because the contents matter enough that you do not trust them to a transmission. She introduced herself as a courier diplomat, gave her name as Reyes, and asked, politely, for the quartermaster of berth 11. That was me. I asked her, because I am a customs officer and asking is the entire job, what brought her to a berth she had not been hailed to. She said that her ship, the Pellin's Word, had received a status ping 11 hours earlier on a monitoring frequency. Her station has kept active since a customs and transit accord was signed between our two peoples 91 years ago. Annex 9 of that accord, she said, obligates either signatory to acknowledge unresolved discrepancy reports filed against the other's clearing infrastructure within 1 standard cycle. My fuel cell reconciliation packet, the dull one, the one about 600 units against 590, had failed to reach the Assembly's clearing house. Instead, it had bounced off a relay satellite our customs network decommissioned 11 years ago and never physically removed, and the relay, still drawing trickle power off a degrading solar cell, had forwarded it down a backup channel that nobody on my side remembered existed. That backup channel terminated, 91 years ago, at a listening post that still belongs, on paper and in practice, to Earth. I want to be precise about what I felt standing there, because precision is the only thing I am good at. It was not fear. It was not relief. It was the particular cold weight of doing arithmetic you did not ask to do, counting backward through 91 years of an accord nobody on my side had thought about since the signing, and forward through 11 years of a satellite nobody had thought to scrap properly, and landing, both times on the same number. Zero. Zero people who knew this channel was live. Zero people who meant to send anything to Earth. And one human standing in my customs bay with a document case, because a discrepancy of 10 fuel units had, through no decision of anyone's, become a treaty matter. She must have seen the arithmetic on my face, because she set the case down on the counter between us, unopened, and said there was no urgency to any of it, that she understood exactly how small the original packet had been, that she had read the manifest numbers herself on the crossing, and had, in fact, found the discrepancy faintly amusing, 10 units against 600, the kind of rounding error any reaction mass system produces on a humid morning. She said this not to embarrass me, but to take the weight off the moment, the way a person does when they can see you are doing math you did not sign up for. I told her I remember saying it exactly this way, that the packet had not been a distress call, that nothing on this station was in any danger, that this was a fuel cell reconciliation, and I was sorry she had come so far for 10 units of hydrogen. She said she understood that. She said her ship had not come armed, had not come fast, had taken the full 11 hours at a comfortable cruise because nothing in the packet had read as urgent, only as unresolved. She said Annex 9 does not care about urgency. It cares about the cycle closing. Then she opened the case, and it was exactly what it looked like. A formal acknowledgement of discrepancy, addressed to the Corvath Assembly Customs Authority, citing the relay's identification number, the backup channel's frequency, and a polite, procedural recommendation that the Assembly either formally decommission the channel or formally reopen it, because Earth's monitoring station could not, in good conscience, keep treating an open frequency as closed simply because no one on the other end remembered it existed. I signed for it. There is a line for the receiving quartermaster, and I am the receiving quartermaster, and I signed it the way I sign for fuel deliveries, because in the end that is also what this was. She did not stay long. She asked if the discrepancy itself had been resolved, the 10 units, and I told her it had, that it was a metering fault on berth 11's outflow valve, already logged, already scheduled for repair. She nodded. The way you nod at something that was never really the point, and said that was good to hear, and that she would note it in her own report so the cycle could close cleanly on both sides. Before she left, I asked her, and I had not planned to ask this. It simply came out of me the way the truest questions do, whether Earth's listening post had any idea before yesterday that Annex 9's old emergency channel was still drawing power and still receiving traffic from a station that did not know it was being received. She said yes. She said it had been on a maintenance flag for 11 years, low priority, unconfirmed, the kind of thing that sits in a queue behind everything that matters more, until something arrived on it. She said nobody had decided to keep listening. They had simply never gotten around to deciding to stop. I filed my own report that evening in the gallery, with the window still letting in Skern's pale afternoon light, the docking ring below it going through its ordinary rotation of arrivals and departures as though nothing about the day had been unusual, because for everyone but me, nothing had. I recommended the relay be decommissioned properly this time, with a physical disconnect, not an administrative note. I recommended Annex 9 be reviewed by people with more authority than a berth 11 quartermaster. I sat with the report open for longer than it took to write it, turning over the one detail I could not make sit comfortably anywhere in the official language, that a ship had crossed 11 hours of open space, unescorted and unarmed, to answer a number that meant nothing to anyone but a fuel ledger, and had treated that crossing as ordinary. And then, because the report form has a line for remarks, and because 19 years of customs work has taught me that the remarks line is the only honest part of any form, I wrote one sentence and left it there. The channel was never closed on either side, and I no longer think that was an accident anyone made on purpose, only one nobody undid. The Pellin's word departed at the cruise it arrived with. No escort, no fanfare, Berth 11 processed 4 more freighters before the end of my shift, and the metering fault on the outflow valve was repaired the following morning, and the discrepancy, 10 units of compressed hydrogen, closed out clean in the ledger the way discrepancies are supposed to. The frequency is still flagged. I checked before I wrote this down. Active monitoring indefinite. Someone somewhere on Earth's side decided that this time they would get around to it.